3 books. Hello Bookworms, how's everything going? I hope you're having great reads. Today's video will be slightly different. It's still a review, but this time it will be a trilogy review. We've done this once, one of my first videos, actually the first one, and I wanted to repeat this maybe in a slightly different format. Let's see how it goes. I will still be posting individual reviews for each one of these books, but it will be in the short format. Let me know what you think, which one do you like more? Either way, we'll see. So today the trilogy I'll be talking about is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. This trilogy is composed of 3 books. Right behind me they are The Ninth Rain, The Bitter Twins, and The Poison Song. These books were published between 2017 and 2019, so they are fairly recent. They were quite famous a couple of years ago after some booktubers read them and raved about them, and they kind of exploded from there. And I think it's deserved because the books are quite good. But I'm not jumping right into it. Wait a second. Although the books were quite famous, they actually didn't get many reviews on Goodreads. The books have, by order, 8,000, 4,000, and 3,000 ratings. And the scores that they got were 4.1, 4.11, and 4.26. I mean, it's quite consistent going from the first to the second, even though the ratings went down. And going from the second to the third, it increases, and even though the ratings went down yet again, so it shows that the fans that kept going really enjoyed how the series progressed. But so what are my thoughts about this trilogy? Let's dive into it and see. So let's start with the plot. The Ninth Rain, which is the first book, sets up the story with the catapulting threat of the Jurelia, an alien race that is about to invade the planet, which gives some vibes of Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Bern, but very, very different. Just some tiny dusts there. And I think that the plot, even though sometimes it navigates through familiar tropes like kind of a chosen one, the animal companion, all those things, it's still capable of innovating it and making it fresh and new, especially considering that it joins so many different aspects of fantasy into this series. And I think the first book is able to continue moving the plot quite consistently, and even though it's not amazing, it's also not bad, and I think it was able to continue propelling me and making me interested about what was going to happen in the world or with the characters. When we moved to the second book, I felt that the second book was a lot more character focused, and so the plot kind of became a bit meandering, which again, for some people that won't matter as much because they don't care much about plot and they care about characters. But for me, yeah, it reduced a bit my enjoyment. And of course, with the grand finale of The Poison Song, the plot just becomes bigger and super life-threatening, and it has those stakes that we all love in epic fantasy, and this truly becomes an epic fantasy towards the end, and that really, again, rose my enjoyment for the series. And I think the series delivers a fantastic and resounding showdown towards the end, and a conclusion that is fitting for the trilogy. So overall, even though the plot has some moments of brilliance, there are some moments of the narrative that feel a bit predictable, almost like hiccups in the narrative as a whole, and that kind of reduces my enjoyment. However, in the overall arc for the whole trilogy, I think the mystery, the adventure, the epicness of it really is successful, and so for me, this category deserves a 4 out of 5 across the 3 books. Okay, now moving on to the characters. There are 3 main characters, which are Vintage, Tor, and Noon, but we also have an ensemble cast, and I would say some not secondary but also not main protagonist characters that show up more in the second and third books, and they become quite important. And actually one of my favorites was one of those characters. So I think Jen Williams was really great at setting up in the first book the main characters, what their objectives were, what they were aspirations, their fears, everything. And then as we progress to the rest of the books, she introduces these other characters that can be just as important. And I mean, they are key characters in the plot. Without them, the plot wouldn't progress towards what it does. So I think she does a brilliant job, and yeah, it deserves to be commended. And it's good because even the first 3 characters, Tor, Noon, and Vintage, they don't remain static after the first book. They still develop a lot throughout the second and third books, even though the third book, there was a character that their story arc wasn't what I wish that had happened, but then again, that's just a personal preference. Maybe you'll read it and you think, oh yeah, this makes all sense. So it varies a bit, but I think overall it's still a good arc for all the characters. And I think the development they go through throughout the whole trilogy is the journey of self-discovery, growth, and at times a lot of sacrifice. These characters, they do have to sacrifice a lot in their journey. I mean, you have Vintage thirst for knowledge, you have Tora's past always haunting him, you have Noon trying to figure out who she is throughout the trilogy. So very important questions that these characters all give different perspectives on. And of course, it allows for Jen Williams to also provide more information about the world. For example, with Vintage and her thirst for knowledge, it's a good avenue for not info dumps, but exposition of the world and what's happening. So it was a smart idea from Jen Williams to do this. And as we traverse through the Bitter Twins into the Poison Song, the characters evolve in response to the challenges they face, the mysteries they uncover, and the bonds they forge. And like I said, I think the Bitter Twins had a special character moment where I saw the trajectory a certain character would take. I don't want to go into spoilers. This trajectory was inevitable, but still it was amazing to see it happening, and Jen Williams really did a good job at making it happen in a seamless way and make me love that character, love and hate at the same time. Of course, not everything is brilliant, and like I said, there are some arcs that I didn't really enjoy, some parts that feel a bit of a stretch in regards to what they would endure or how they would react, or sometimes some plot armor happening, some things that are a bit unexplained, but nonetheless, the emotional resonance is there. And so because of that, this category deserves a 4 out of 5 to me, across all books. Now with the foundational aspect of this trilogy, which is the world build. I think Jen Williams crafted a world that is awe-inspiring. You have the Aboran civilization, which is the civilization of almost like elves that relied on this tree to give them sap and they could continue living and be healthy, but then this tree kind of became dead-ish, and so the sap stopped flowing and they can't draw from the tree, so they start aging. They resort to drinking human blood, that gives them a disease. So there's this complexity about the Aboran civilization, and this is not spoilers, this is cover or jacket information, the synopsis. So I think the civilization was brilliant in the way it was created. I mean, we have elves and then we have kind of mixed with vampires, but it was fresh. It didn't seem like an archetype or just like a $2 store version of an elf / vampire. It felt very well constructed. And the same thing applies for the Jurelia, the alien civilization that is trying to invade this planet, and even the humans and the other mysteries that revolve around this planet. All of it made a lot of sense as the books progressed. It seems very weird at first, but as you progress through the trilogy, everything starts making more and more sense. And I think from this Aboran civilization to the Jurelia, Jen Williams was able to make the world both expansive, but at the same time quite intimate. I mean, you have, again, the Jurelia with their invasion, and you have the Aborans who are declining in their civilization, and you see how intimate that loss is. At the same time, you feel the threat of the alien civilization coming in and becoming more and more prevalent, let's say. And then again, the integration of magic, technology, and ancient history, because again, this world feels like it's thousands of years old, and there is history to back it up, especially with the Aborans. It gives a consistency to the trilogy, to the books and the story, the characters, everything. So I really enjoyed that. And again, if you had told me all these separate elements would be in a book, I would be like, not sure if they would work out all together. It seems like it's trying to put too many things in one pot and it will become a bit of a mess. But the fact is, Jen Williams actually did it, and it was consistent and it was successful. I mean, I enjoyed the book. So just to prove that sometimes putting a lot of things together can result in something new. I mean, I haven't even spoken about the animal companions. I thought that would be too much because there were so many different types of animal companions, but it worked and it made sense. I think possibly the last book could have done a bit more of explaining certain things happening and not create more and more variables. And so for me, the world building category is a 4, a very strong 4, almost a 5. But because of these things in the last book that didn't really make much sense, or they didn't add to the story themselves, I think a 4 is deserving. Second last, let's delve into writing style. And I think writing style for Jen Williams, it evolved as the books evolved. I think the descriptions are evocative, letting the readers really immerse themselves into the story, and I felt like I was in that world. Although I wouldn't really want to be in that world because it's not that great, but it still feel the adventure and the excitement about it. Like I said before, I think the writing has a balance between being descriptive and the action itself. Like there are characters that are more associating with exposition while others are more associated with action. And Jen Williams did a good job at swapping between these different characters to give what she needed to give in terms of the writing. I think the writing in the first book could have done some improvement, could have been some more concise in certain parts, but I think the emotional journey that Jen Williams started from the second book onwards really compensated for that and made it a lot more enjoyable and faster to read because I was more attached to what was happening. So overall, the writing style is again a 4 out of 5. I think it connects very well, the 3 books together. The pacing is not bad. Of course, there are some problems here and there, but nothing too major that made me want to stop reading the book. So it's a good score. And finally, the enjoyment for this book. I thought it was quite consistent across the trilogy. The start of the trilogy filled me with excitement, and then it started tapering off as I read the first book. But then as I started the second book, it went back up because I was enjoying the characters themselves and everything. And then the third book, it went a bit down again. Not too down, just decreased a bit. And then the end, I liked it, I enjoyed a bit, so it went back up. So if we calculated the average of all those peaks and valleys, I think it would be a 4. So yeah, it seems like very consistent 4 across the board. So overall, I think the Winnowing trilogy is an amazing trilogy that deserves to be read. It has amazing character growth. It has a world that you probably haven't seen all of these things together, so definitely worth checking it out. Again, the thing that I think it's closest to this might be The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey, because we have kind of an alien invasion, we have animal companions, but then again, we also have great character arcs, but there are certain differences, of course. So, of course, individual categories for these books will change. It's not all of it 4, 4, 4, but overall, for the 3 books, the trilogy is a 4 out of 5 for me. I think if you're seeking a new world to explore, character arcs to be developed and that you feel attached to, or even a plot that is filled with mystery and discovery, I think you'll enjoy this trilogy. Again, if you are curious about individual scores, just watch the shorts that will be coming up if they haven't already, and you'll be getting this individual scores, and we can comment about it and chat more about it. But so I want to know, if you've read this trilogy, what do you think about it? Have you journeyed through the realms of Ibora and seen the Julie invasion? What do you have to say about it? Comment down below. Of course, if you're going to talk about spoilers, just write spoilers at the start so that no one else gets spoiled. And if you're new, welcome. Don't forget, subscribe, like the content, and let me know what you want me to read and comment next, review, any recommendations. More than happy to take them on. And yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you soon. All right? Adios.